In these various videos that I have made, I've talked about America's ruling class. And so you may want to know how America's ruling class works and who they are. Well, to answer that question, I'm going to talk about something you do know something about, and that is your human brain. Now, if you are an adult human being, you have undoubtedly found yourself in a position in the early morning where you are halfway awoken. You're not fully awake. You know that you have to get up to go to work, but there's a good part of you that doesn't want to go to work. So you sit there in this halfway state for anywhere from a few minutes to perhaps 15 minutes or even longer. There's an ongoing battle in your brain as to what to do, but yet you lay there on your bed in this twilight state of half sleep and half awareness. And then suddenly, like a bolt of lightning, you're up and you're moving around. And it happens before you know it. Well, what caused that? What caused you to suddenly get up and move into action? What cells in your brain were responsible for that? Can you point to any one particular cell? The answer is no. The truth is that your brain is comprised of millions and millions of cells that talk to each other, that interact with each other. There's an incredible amount of information that's interacting. There's that part of the brain that wants you to sleep. There's that part of the brain that knows that you need to get up. You're also being impacted by sensory information from different parts of your body. And then suddenly, you're up and moving. Well, that's how America's ruling class works. Think of the ruling class as that center of the brain which collects and collates information. These individual cells of the ruling class are talking to each other. They talk to each other through their various corporate boards, trade associations, personal interactions, social parties, weddings, baptisms, meetings on Congressional Hill, churches, synagogues, baseball fields, you name it. They meet in backyard barbecues, in the State Department, within the bowels of the CIA, on the street, in the field. They meet all over the place. And through these millions, no, billions of interactions, a consensus emerges to take a course of action. And then, like a bolt of lightning, the American government moves in a certain direction. And yet nobody can point to any one particular cell that is definitively responsible for that action. That's how the ruling class works. It's not a conspiracy of five guys sitting around a table. Moreover, there's nothing hidden. In fact, the plans of the ruling class are often written right out there for everyone to see. They appear in journals like Foreign Affairs, which is the official rag of the Council on Foreign Relations. But plans don't necessarily need to appear there. They also appear in part in books that different professors have written or published. They may publish their book through Harvard University Press. They may publish through Princeton University Press. Or there might be an article in the Shinbone Star. But one way or the other, all this information gets collated and assimilated. It percolates through millions of people. And then, just like that, a decision is made. Now, this is not to say that there aren't some people at the top who are more important than others. There clearly are. But to point to any one particular individual as responsible for the whole thing is untrue and impossible to do. And even though the ruling class makes decisions for Americans, that doesn't mean that the ruling class is perfect. Oh no. The ruling class is still comprised of human beings who can do stupid things. And so the ruling class does make mistakes. And like human beings, the ruling class is fickle. It sometimes changes its mind for no particular reason whatsoever, at least nothing that we can discern. But most of the time, the ruling class moves forward with their plan just as you do. Now, sometimes they may pause. And the reason they may pause and change direction is because other information comes into the neural network that is the ruling class. There are competing interests. This is why it's impossible to predict what the ruling class will do. But they are there nevertheless. Now, all of this is important to know. You can only describe characteristics about the ruling class, but to predict what they do, impossible.